the leader is responsible for the team, and they show the accomplishments of the team and take the missteps or the faults. So let's talk examples. Do we have any historical or personal examples of this getting done right, where we can really point to somebody or something or some example where like that is exactly what we're talking about? This is the behavior.
Yeah, and so, for our listeners, as we're going through this, contrast what I'm about to talk about against what we're seeing across society right now, okay? But there are lots of examples. I could cite Abraham Lincoln, going before Congress and saying that failures were his fault or so forth and so on, but one that really comes to mind, immediately for me is General Dwight Eisenhower. When he was in his role as Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, in preparation for Operation Overlord or the D-Day invasion, at Normandy, without getting into too much of the history really surrounding the invasion, there was so much that could have gone wrong. This was the largest single invasion in human history, amphibious or otherwise. The weather in the English Channel is so unpredictable. And this is 1944. They couldn't dial up the Weather Channel. They didn't have satellites and radar and all that, to be able to Doppler to figure out all this stuff. And so their information was very limited, and they only had a small window to get it right. And again, you're moving huge amounts of personnel, equipment, and so forth in a very short time window. And so the decision of whether to proceed had to be made in the absence of any accurate forecasting, okay? So think of all the excuses that could come from that, right? And this was to be the decisive operation in the European theater in World War II. And again, incalculable points of failure, and what could that translate to? Yet, late in the evening of June 5th, so the day before what we now call D-Day, 1944, General Eisenhower sat down at his desk and he wrote 2 letters. And we'll put a link in the description to the National Archives where they actually have these so you can see them for yourselves. But the first letter was one eventually that was published, praising the troops for their courage, devotion to duty, and their skill in battle. And that letter went on to be circulated around the world after the success of the invasion. But the second letter, and again, it's in the archives and it's handwritten, you can see it, his signature, date, the whole deal. It was much different. That letter was to be released to the press if the invasion failed. And when the operation was a success, General Eisenhower tossed it in the trash. But his aide retrieved it, and now it sits in our National Archives. And in the letter, Eisenhower wrote, and I'm quoting this, "Our landings in the Cherbourg-Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based on the best information available. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." So with all the incalculable ways that enormous operation could have failed, and with it, honestly, a completely different outcome for human history, Eisenhower was prepared to say, we could even argue that he effectively did say, he was the one to blame. So I think that's a profound example of this idea of, give the credit, take the blame.
That's a huge comparison. Like in both of those examples, both of those letters, the team gets praised. The team in the first one gets praised for the result. In the second one, they get praised for their role in it, even though it was a failure. But the blame is, and he could have blamed, well, I didn't get the right information. This person, gave me information that was untrue. Like that's the only time it seems in those 2 examples where he says I was when it was like, it went wrong. I did that. I did that. And that is a real contrast to a lot of examples I think I see. And I've, even had examples where I'm at fault in this, where you see something go really right and you just you want to sort of get in that spotlight of, oh, I had something to do with it. I did this too, instead of really using it as a chance to advance your team. Not falsely, not giving them credit for something they weren't involved in, but really giving that.